So I see a lot of clients in my practice seeking support for their mental health, whether that's chronic anxiety, depression, insomnia, ADHD, and for many it's affecting them alongside another health issue they may have. It's pretty rare that I'm seeing a client who, to some degree, is not struggling with their mental health. And so when exploring support for mental health and why people may be experiencing mental health symptoms, I love to frame the presentation of mental health symptoms and why they could be presenting through the lens of a term called psychiatric pretenders, which is essentially referring to a very wide number of physical or physiological imbalances in the body that can mimic or be driving these symptoms. Because a very out-of-date way of looking at mental health is that it is a genetically predetermined brain chemical imbalance, which a lot of research refutes, and or that it's otherwise a purely psychological phenomenon. Now, with mental health in particular, but I would personally argue with every and any illness or symptom or disease, there are physical, mental, emotional, psychospiritual dimensions to what may be driving and contributing to those symptoms. And, you know, it's an ongoing inquiry for all of us to get the support we need to figure out what might be underlying our experiences of symptoms in these different dimensions. However, in my experience, and especially with mental health, which many people get told is in their genes or it's purely psychological, there are a huge amount of variables in the physical plane that can be driving mental health symptoms. So it's not always in your head, as goes the saying. And I do have a perspective or a bias that before going on some epic journey into the deep psychological, emotional, spiritual dimensions of your traumas and things that are very rightly going to need to be looked at, it's a good idea just to make sure you've covered your bases in the physical plane. Because if you do have certain physiological imbalances driving mental health symptoms, it's going to be difficult for your nervous system to sit with and hold therapeutic work. You know, like if it's always in fight or flight and danger sensing mode due to physical imbalances. So there are so many to consider, but, you know, in a nutshell, some of the key ones are any manner of nutrient deficiencies, so in vitamins or minerals, or elements of the diet like protein, gut dysbiosis and leaky gut, hormonal imbalances, whether that's sex hormones, thyroid, insulin and blood sugar, disruption of circadian rhythm and our sleep quality, chronic ongoing exposure to toxicants, so like heavy metals or mold, or and also medication side effects. So some people are simply experiencing mental health symptoms but haven't made the connection with medications they're already taking. So all of these can contribute to mental health symptoms. For some people it literally might just be one thing, like a very chronic vitamin D deficiency, you know, alongside they're really not sleeping well. And just that could significantly improve someone's mental health. It's not always that simple for everyone, but for some people it can be. So it's just a good idea to assess these areas and address them before assuming that you have a random genetic mental health issue that's out of your control, or that it's all in your head and it's all psychology. So just getting the right testing and support done and having that interpreted properly, and yeah, just know that there's so much you can do and look at to support your physical health and therefore your mental health. And yeah, sometimes it is really basic and other times it's a bit more complex. And you know, to the flip side to all of this is that some people are on the other end of the spectrum. So where they're so heavily focused on the physical plane of reality and being healthy all the time and doing all the things, but it's, you know, on paper they've kind of addressed most of it. But that is all starting to become at the expense of and being avoidant of the emotional and psychological aspects that they really need to look at for themselves. So it's a balance, right? But in the context of mental health overall, I would highly recommend ensuring you assess for, think about and address these so-called psychiatric pretenders.